Hello everyone, welcome to the Buzz the Prey Manga. Today we continue the latest Global Freeze chapter, rewritten and edited by me in English for a smooth reading experience. All visuals and story flow are personally edited to give you the best manga style storytelling. Support the original creator by checking the official manga. So let's dive right into the today's chapter.
Chapter 2599 Armed War, Maiden 1. A ring of interference appeared in the center of the B-2 fighter jet, with red light spreading outwards in concentric circles, like the air being kneaded into rippled glass. Centered on her, when the oscillating interference ring is transmitted to the next fighter jet, it will trigger an even more violent and turbulent space oscillation. The spatial shockwave grew larger and larger like a tide, then swept in all directions, and a special energy swept around Zhang Yi. It wasn't just a simple impact, but an effect on space, like a pebble thrown into water, causing ripples to spread out layer by layer. The outer gates, displaying a myriad of phenomena, seemed to have been tampered with. Some thresholds instantly lost their alignment, and some spaces behind the doors were twisted into wrinkles. The layered defense slipped from top to bottom, and the interlayer locking was delayed by half a beat. Zhang Yi's pupils suddenly contracted as he felt cracks appear in his strongest defenses. How could this happen? What on earth did these guys do? The myriad phenomena, an upgraded version of the dimensional gate skill, is composed of 3,000 dimensional gates. His defensive skills, which leave no blind spots, allow him to fight against people far stronger than himself time and time again, without dying. Unless he encounters someone far stronger than himself, Zhang Yi is never worried that anyone can break through his defenses. But this time, things seemed to be a little different. A series of soft, crackling sounds emanated from the doors, like the gentle creaking of glass expanding and contracting in the freezing cold of a night. Each door remained, yet each rippled with an unusual, distinct energy. A red flash streaked across the front of the B-2 fighter jet, and it fired at Zhang Yi again. They advanced in separate columns, their attacks forming a dense web that left Zhang Yi with no room to hide. Zhang Yi's eyes sharpened, and he mentally counted down the seconds. The second hand of time predicts the future within 5 seconds. Images of the future flashed before my eyes like turning the pages of a book. This allows him to clearly see every attack from the opponent. However, he was surprised to find that his all-encompassing manifestation was no longer invincible, and cracks appeared under the opponent's powerful continuous attacks. Without the slightest hesitation, Zhang Yi immediately raised his hand and took out the demon blade Divine Refinement. Netherworld, Big Burial. Since absolute defense is impossible, then offense should be used as a more powerful means of defense. Fortunately, Zhang Yi's abilities have become more comprehensive, and he will not be trapped in a predicament because his abilities are suppressed. The demonic blade was swung out with fierce speed, unfolding like a black waterfall of light and shadow in front of him. The grand burial in the underworld is like a black river drawn by the night, silently cascading down from beneath your feet. There were no waves on the river, only the light lost its color within it. The knife cast a shadow in the river, seemingly devouring everything, while dark red vine patterns meandered along its spine, like some kind of living metal. He pressed the blade downwards. The black river surged forth from the void, creating towering waves that surged forward in layers. This attack engulfed the combined assault of 13 fighter jets, causing them to annihilate each other. 13 fighter jets hovered in the air, and Zhang Yi's gaze was sharper than ever before. They both sensed the strength of the other. These guys are clearly not the same kind of thing as the sand-sweeping robots we encountered before. Zhang Yi quickly pulled Yang Xinxin and Freeman into his shadow, no longer daring to be overconfident. Freeman continued, "Of course. These are the last remnants of the Sand Raider civilization. These are beings like Ling, the last armed force, and of course they are not weak. They have gone through a long period of development, while humans have only mastered superpowers for 5 years. They have long since figured these things out." Therefore, Zhang Yi's proud spatial abilities were quickly countered by his opponent. This made Zhang Yi's heart race. He began to understand what level he was in the eyes of powerful figures from advanced civilizations like Ling and Bailongzi. Zhang Yi's eyes narrowed slightly, and his grip on the knife tightened. When absolute defense is no longer absolute, battles become less safe. The thrill of this crisis excites Zhang Yi, and the long-awaited surge of adrenaline makes him incredibly excited. The next second, the wings folded, the joints flipped, and the rivets cracked together to form a metallic pattern. The streamlined outer shell retracts like flower petals, revealing an alloy skeleton and a humanoid spine. After shedding their mecha forms, they transformed into 13 women. The moment they landed, the dust was pressed into 13 concentric ripples. 13 armed battle maidens stood side by side in an arc. Their short, silver-white hair clad in contrast to their black battlesuits, and beneath their black dresses, their thighs were firm and snow-white, while their black combat boots gave off an urge to be trampled. Their eyes were a cold red matrix light. They were fully armed, with a huge weapon hanging on their backs and hand cannons disproportionate to their size hanging at their waists. They all raised their eyes at the same time, like 13 night owls waking up at the same time, staring coldly at Zhang Yi, their killing intent palpable. Zhang Yi narrowed his eyes. So, you chose to transform into human form to fight me? The B-2 robot, the commander in the very center, opened its mouth and uttered a cold command. Formation 3. Annihilation. She took the exaggerated battle sword from behind her back, raised the hand cannon in her left hand, and charged towards Zhang Yi. The other 12 armed battle maidens, some taking out sniper cannons and others wielding huge warhammers, charged towards Zhang Yi from 13 different directions. Spatial shockwaves emanated from the core of their chests, directly sealing off the entire space. Zhang Yi didn't even dare to use spatial teleportation because under unstable spatial conditions, using this ability without authorization could result in serious injury from spatial compression. Zhang Yi took a deep breath. Come on. I never said I wouldn't hit a woman. He was also communicating with Yang Xinxin. Xinxin, please help me analyze the battle situation. He rarely asked Yang Xinxin for help during such direct confrontations anymore. Clearly, even he felt the strain of this battle. Grand burial in the underworld. The dark gate to the underworld was opened, and viscous dark matter flowed out, extending onto Zhang Yi's divine refinement. He swiftly drew his sword, aiming it at the 3 people rapidly approaching him from directly in front of him. At the same time, Dimensional String also made a move, directly attacking an armed battle maiden who was close to his attack range. He focused his efforts on one point, killing one of the armed battle maidens. Under the pressure of the sword intent, the shields of the 2 battle maidens formed a honeycomb pattern. The honeycomb pattern flashed once, twice, and shattered into crystalline powder on the 3rd time. They remained calm and did not back down. Instead, at the moment the energy shield shattered, the battle maiden on the left slightly raised the tip of her greatsword, causing the blade to unfold and display layers of folds like fish scales, forcibly absorbing the sword pressure from the netherworld. Her sword could actually absorb the power of attacks. Chapter 2600 Armed War, Maiden 2. Zhang Yi was taken aback by the sword used by the armed war maiden. Involuntarily, the image of another old friend surfaced in his mind, Lordek, the second-in-command of the Tsungyuan clan. The opponent also wielded a pair of 2-handed swords. One sword could absorb energy, while the other released it. It turns out that beyond superpowers, mechanical civilizations can also utilize energy to this extent. This greatly changed Zhang Yi's worldview. Is this the power that a technologically advanced civilization should possess? Ling's voice still echoed in Zhang Yi's mind. The source of all power in the universe is the Big Bang that triggered the singularity 13.8 billion years ago, which originated from a release of energy by the Creator. All superpowers, gravitational fields, and mechanical energy are ultimately a kind of power. Civilizations that have reached the highest level of development have long since figured out what humans call superpowers. Zhang Yi took a deep breath. This was the first time in his life that he had encountered an opponent who completely suppressed him in terms of understanding of power. The individual strength of these 13 armed battle maidens was probably around 4,000 plus, but the combination of their abilities and their ability to counter supernatural powers actually made it difficult for Zhang Yi to fight them for a while.
Boom, boom, boom.
Zhang Yi's mind was racing, but his attacks didn't falter in the slightest. He gripped the divine refining blade tightly in both hands and unleashed continuous slashes in all directions. Rivers of the netherworld swept in all directions, layer upon layer, forming an unbreakable circle around him, combining offense and defense. When one of the armed battle maidens tried to absorb Zhang Yi's attack again, she was shocked to find that the great sword in her hand was quickly stained with an extreme darkness. The combat system also issued an alarm. The energy attribute is special, its nature is unknown, and it exceeds the capacity limit. With a crisp crack, the great sword she was holding shattered in the middle. The power of the netherworld does not belong to the surface universe, and it is mutually restraining with everything in the surface universe, so it cannot be recognized or absorbed. Seeing this, the 13 armed battle maidens remained calm. They raised their hands to form a defensive force field in front of them while continuing their attack on Zhang Yi. On the right, an armed battle maid planted her hand cannon into the ground, and black rings popped out from the breach, like an anchor point being driven into the ground. Buzz! An invisible force field surged outwards, and the blade shadow that Zhang Yi unleashed rushed towards him, but was actually stopped by that anchor point, like a river being blocked and forced to flow back into a whirlpool. Field. Spatial vortex. The armed battle maiden used her spatial abilities to distort space, thus also distorting Zhang Yi's attack methods. In another direction, the other armed battle maidens had all raised their hand cannons and began to attack Zhang Yi. Boom! The hand cannon contained the power of spatial shockwaves, which directly reduced Senro Myriad Phenomena's defensive capabilities by more than half. This attack actually shattered dozens of Zhang Yi's dimensional gates. Zhang Yi's gaze sharpened further. Such perfect teamwork. Can a combined attack technique really achieve this level of coordination? 13 armed battle maidens, each possessing completely different abilities, some specializing in defense and others in offense. When they work together, they are methodical and can make immediate adjustments based on Zhang Yi's reactions. This fighting style amazed Zhang. Within the pupil of his left eye, the second hand of time was quietly turning. Zhang Yi anticipated all of the opponent's actions within 5 seconds, then suddenly accelerated and flew towards an armed battle maiden. However, as he prepared to attack, the future he saw changed. Because the opponent is not an inanimate object, it will change its tactics according to the opponent's behavior. In Zhang Yi's eyes, different futures formed overlapping shadows. The future in 5 seconds is not everything that remains unchanged within those 5 seconds. The opponent will also change according to his reaction, which means that as long as the opponent is fast enough, he can completely avoid everything. Splash! A petite, silver-haired, armed battle maiden raised a massive hand cannon and fired it towards the sky. The next moment, a huge white ice ring descended from the sky, completely enveloping the area where Zhang Yi was located. The protection of the myriad phenomena prevented Zhang Yi from being frozen, but he dared not easily use space travel to teleport. He had to use the demon god armor to propel himself through conventional means. After the space was frozen, his speed obviously became very slow. The other 12 armed battle maidens worked in perfect unison, seizing the opportunity to launch a concentrated attack on Zhang Yi.
Boom, boom, boom.
12 massive energy cannons bombarded the defensive layer of the myriad phenomena, causing ripples to spread and Zhang Yi's defensive power to be continuously weakened. You guys specifically trained me, right? Zhang Yi raised an eyebrow. He even felt that these guys existed specifically for him. However, this is just a helpless complaint, because even if any other ability user came, they would be forced into a difficult situation by these 13 people's abilities. This is the Sand Raiders civilization, a civilization and race that was once extremely glorious. Even though it has been destroyed, The remaining afterglow is still amazing. Zhang Yi truly learned a lesson here. The 13 armed battle maidens are a unified whole, so what if I break this balance? As Zhang Yi felt the myriad phenomena of the universe being shattered layer by layer, a cold smile appeared on his lips. That alone is not enough to push him to his limit. If it's just to break the deadlock, he has many other methods he can use, such as summoning Ling, or taking out the Sky Sea Fortress and the super battleship to destroy the opponent with overwhelming firepower. But this time, he simply didn't want to do that. Because of the perfect combined attack of 13 people, he began to realize that his own abilities were still lacking. He felt that if he could break through the encirclement of these 13 armed battle maidens, his understanding of his abilities would reach a new level. A white light flashed in his left eye, and the minute hand of the ancient clock clicked and turned into a white vortex, bursting out with brilliant light. The sky a moment. One of Zhang Yi's most powerful killing moves was unleashed by him. In that instant, everything accelerated infinitely, and time stood still. Although it was only for a moment, it was more than enough. The 13 armed battle maidens stopped what they were doing, and the fluctuations in space also ceased. Zhang Yi crossed the thousands of meters between them and arrived in front of an armed battle maiden. Then, facing that flawless pretty face, without the slightest hesitation, he slashed down hard on her head with a knife. The responses rang out almost simultaneously. Just as Zhang Yi was about to counterattack with his demonic blade in hand, the 13 fighter jets suddenly changed their attack method. Here we end today's chapter. I hope you liked it. Kindly do also subscribe to my gaming channel. I have to Fina a way to survive. Thanks.
Alright, that's it for today's chapter. Tell me in the comments which part you enjoyed the most. If you love manga style stories, don't forget to like the video and subscribe the Buzz Play Manga. See you in the next chapter with more surprises.